Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days and 5 minutes on this Wednesday morning, the 26th, the 28th of February. And we've got a busy morning on the watches and warnings map across both coasts. The eastern half of the United States, it's about wind, not so much about rain, although we will have some heavy downpours and some thunderstorms to deal with. But we also have a lot of wind advisories and high wind warnings up through much of upstate New York, down East Maine, and advisories everywhere else. Also down the Appalachians and into the deep south, we're seeing wind advisories. And overnight, we have some leftover tornado watches in the yellows here. Those are going to disappear, and then we'll probably see perhaps some severe weather issues later today, although I don't think it'll be as widespread as it was during the overnight. In the west, we've got blizzard warnings in the Sierra Nevada mountains, winter storm warnings up northward through the Cascades. We're talking about snow that's going to be measured in many feet, 5 to 10 feet or more. Watches up for western Wyoming, warnings up for northern Idaho. It's just a very stormy situation in California, really going to get dumped on in the Sierra Nevadas. And in between, really not a whole lot going on. On the surface map this morning, we have intensifying low pressure in north central Michigan, a warm front that extends south from there into northern Virginia. And you'll notice the isobars here, the lines of equal pressure, getting tighter and tighter as the day goes on. And that means that we're going to see strong winds. Out in the west, we're waiting for a storm system that's right now sitting off the coast of northwestern Washington, I'm sorry, northwestern Canada, that's dropping southward, and this is going to bring the big snows to the western mountains beginning tonight and probably lasting through the weekend. On the satellite loop, a lot of clouds in the east rolling northeastward. Temperatures today are going to really depend on whether we get a break in any of the shower activity that's around on the radar. I'll get to that in a second, but we got that Pacific subtropical jet being part of this, and every time we've seen this here during the last several months, it's always led to a big storm system. Fortunately, the low is traveling to our north rather than much further south, because then things would probably be a lot worse with respect to the wind and rain that we're dealing with today. And you can see the clouds beginning to come into the northwest. Radars are very busy. We've got showery rains with some gaps in between. This radar is as of 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Very strong thunderstorms and severe weather from southeast Ohio down across central Kentucky into western Tennessee. There's a healthy looking squall line of storms there that's moving to the east. And remember, if you're watching this later this morning or this afternoon, the radars and satellites obviously are dated. So, as far as severe weather is concerned, be sure to go to weather.gov to your local National Weather Service forecast office to get the latest information about that. The Storm Prediction Center's got a marginal risk for severe weather, isolated severe thunderstorms from western Vermont, upstate New York, southward into northwest New Jersey, across Pennsylvania and into Virginia, southeastern eastern Kentucky, southwestern Virginia, and into eastern Tennessee. A new SPC forecast will come out after 8 a.m., and we'll see whether they expand this a little bit or even add a sliver of slight risk for somebody. And as far as rainfall in the east, certainly it's mostly rainfall over the next 7 days. We're looking at basically a half to 3/4 of an inch. Some areas in southeastern New England, an inch and a half or more. Also, some heavy rains across the Gulf states, 3/4 of an inch to as much as 2 to 3 inches in southeast Louisiana and along the Gulf Coast. And of course, in the west, melted precipitation on the order of several to as much as 5 to 10 inches of precip up and down the Pacific Northwest coast and also in the mountains. We're seeing similar amounts, and that, of course, is going to be snow. The same holds true for the northern Rockies, where we're looking at up to 3 to 5 inches in some places in northern Idaho of liquid equivalent. So, again, up there, it's going to be mostly snow with some big amounts in some of the higher elevations. And as far as snow is concerned, I just want to give you a quick look here what happens behind this front, because it's a very sharp cold front. We're going to see a very sharp drop in temperatures in a short period of time. There will be some snow later tonight and tomorrow morning from lake effect snows and possibly even some flash freezes up in central New York, particularly in and around the Syracuse area where you see forecasting a ribbon of about 10 inches of snow, very narrow band here. Most of the snow here we're talking about is just a coating to a couple of inches, and it's way north and west of the coast. But we're not going to see any of that happen from along the coastal plain from southeastern New England on southward, even though temperatures are going to drop from 60 to 30 in many areas in about 6 hours' time. So here's our system in the east, which only gets a little stronger as we go through the day. Winds are going to be gusting in advisory areas at past 40 miles an hour, and the high wind warning areas at 50 miles an hour. The front's going to come through this evening and then move on out to the east. You see a change over to snow well inland and north briefly before it ends, and then it's windy and colder. We'll be down in the 20s to around 30 in most areas in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England by the time we get to Thursday morning. In the west, here comes the big storm and the big snows there. Our weather here is going to improve for Thursday into Friday, but we've got a system moving through the southern part of the jet stream in that subtropical jet into Texas and into the Gulf states with rain spreading there on Friday. Some of that rain is going to come up the coast later Friday night into Saturday afternoon as a low develops offshore and moves out to the east. It's going to be warming up again. We'll be in the 50s on Saturday and also on Sunday. Might even be a little bit warmer than that on Saturday, depending on the wind direction. And then as we move this system along, it gets better for Sunday. So definitely the better of the 2 weekend days. Another that western storm becomes a strong system up in the plain states, and eventually we'll probably have a cold front come into the east sometime around Tuesday, although it doesn't look like that's going to be a big problem. Most of the energy with that goes well to our north and west, and we may just see a frontal passage with some light precip, let's say, along about Tuesday. We'll be covering all this in very, very incredible detail tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, and that's at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Enjoy your day and just watch out for those strong gusty winds coming in from the south southwest.